Throughout my time growing up, elementary school, middle school, maybe even a good chunk of high school, I always felt less than other people because I would always compare myself to the people I went to school with. Throughout elementary and middle school, I always sort of saw myself as more the weird kid because I wore glasses, I dressed differently than most people, and I wasn't the best at socializing with a lot of my peers back then. Throughout middle school in particular, a lot of kids would feed that feeling within myself through things they'd say or do. And that only made me feel obviously lesser than I already was. And then boom, at the end of my 8th grade year, the lockdown period starts. And with me having such a small circle of friends at the time, maybe around like up to 3 people, and not being on video games either, I really didn't have any of those outside influences. So I was free to do whatever I wanted without the thought of self-comparison. My confidence went through the roof. I also started feeling really good within myself because my physical appearance was definitely starting to get a little better during this time. And I was just living life on my own time without having a care in the world about what anyone else thought. I wasn't wasting my time comparing myself to anyone else because there really wasn't anyone else to compare to. I was just living each day to the best of my ability. And I just felt a heightened sense of well-being and gratitude for my life at the time. Sure, social media was still pretty prevalent in my life. There were still people to compare myself to through that. But it wasn't like I was spending all day on there scrolling and just doing that. Like I said, throughout this time period, I was just going outdoors a lot and sort of clearing my mind. Now, fast forward to my first day for in-person high school in 2020. And that's when things started to really go downhill for my self-confidence wise. I walk into class on the first day, we've all got our masks on and everything like that. And up to this point, I'm under the impression that over this lockdown period, I've become a more confident, outgoing, and extroverted type of guy. But the first thing one of my classmates says to me on the first day is that he knew I'd be tall off of what he saw on the Zoom camera. And the only response I can conjure up in this moment is simply an awkward laugh. As time went on and I started to show up to class in person more often, I fell deeper and deeper into that cycle of comparing myself to everyone else around me. And because of this, I went from feeling like I was on top of the world to feeling like I was back at the bottom again fairly quickly. So I began to be more outgoing and I started to push myself more in things, because I wanted to feel a heightened sense of confidence through doing that. And as a result of those efforts, I did, but it still wasn't enough. I still felt insecure, particularly about the way I looked. So I went about trying to better my appearance in any way I could, but I still felt like everyone else around me looked better at the time. I also compared my body a lot back in 2022 to guys who looked leaner and more muscular than I was. So I went about trying to better that part of myself as well. Through doing this, I was eventually led down a path that ended up causing me to gain over 20 pounds in a single month. I felt depressed because I never felt like I looked good enough. And in the end, that killed my confidence when it came to my overall physical appearance. I was always striving to look better because there was always someone out there with similar features to mine that looked better than me. And I was always striving to become leaner because there was always someone out there who looked leaner and better than I did. I never got the level of validation from other people that I wanted out of these things. I never truly felt satisfied with where I was at in these areas. And in the end, it just really overall ended up destroying my mental health. I was striving for perfection. I was striving for something that was honestly unrealistic for myself to try and attain. And that was because I saw people who had the things that I didn't. People who were at a point that I wasn't, receiving the validation from other people that I wasn't getting myself. And because of that, that made me want to attain what they had more and more, without knowing the potential consequences behind doing those things. And that held me back from making so much progress in other areas more work ethic based. Things I could have gotten so far with earlier on, but I didn't always have my focus or energy in the right place to do. I could have spent that time actually focused on becoming a more well-rounded human being, developing new skills, staying consistent with certain routines, and thinking more about the life that I actually wanted to build for myself. These things would have been way better confidence building activities compared to what I was doing at the time, which little did I know was actually destroying my confidence. In conclusion, guys, You need to stop worrying about the things that are either one, out of your control, or two, out of your need for validation from others. You need to focus on working on yourself, cutting out all distractions, building yourself a strong mind, body, and purpose. And through doing those things, you will naturally build way more confidence than through anything else. I hope this message helped you today, my friend. Keep putting in that work towards becoming at least 1% better each and every day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.